The today's agenda is we are going to see how to create an universe between reporting and the target database is called as a data warehouse. Target database is called as a data warehouse. For creating an universe in Vivo, we have two tools. One is Information Designer, and the second one is called as a Universe Designer. Information Designer, and second one is called as the Universe Designer. We'll see how to create the Information Designer. We'll see how to create an universe with the Information Designer, and how to create a universe with the Universe Designer tool there in R4. Let's start how to let's see how to create a universe with the Information Designer. You know, in the earlier version, for creating a universe you have a tool is called as the earlier version. You have a tool is called as the designer to create an universe, but in the current version, you have two tools for creating universe. The tool number one is called as the Information Designer. When you see here, you have a SAP Business Objects BI Platform 4.0 and SAP BI Business Objects BI Platform Client Tools. There you have a tool is called as Information Design Tool, and the second one is called as Universe Design Tool. Information Design Tool and Universe Design Tool. Universe Design Tool is to create an universe on one data source. Information Design Tool is to create an universe on multiple data sources, two or more data sources, to create one universe on two or more data sources. That is our Information Design Tool. And now we'll see how to create an universe with the Information Design Tool first, or if you want, I'll explain first to the Universe Design Tool how to create an universe on one data source. Then later we'll see how to create a universe on top of Information Design Tool. Okay, two ways you can create. Anyway, I hope you know what is universe and why you need a universe and how to create a universe. The universe, in Vivo, the mandatory for creating reports is you need an universe before creating report. If you go any reporting tool, the mandatory is you need to build a cube before creating a report. The reason why you need a universe, when you talk about data warehouse have a lot of data. When you try to fire a queries on the large database, it will decrease the performance. For improving performance, you need to build an universe between reporting and the data warehouse. For example, when you talk about data warehouse contains organizational data. For example, when you talk about any data warehouse, for example, if you talk about IBM company, IBM have multiple departments. They have a development, they have a development department, they have a F&S department, they have a finance department, they have a HR department. But sometimes the customer will ask us to create reports only for HR people, only for HR department. That time when you fire your reports on top of data warehouse have a 4-5 departmental data. That time it will take a lot of time to check the data in the data warehouse and display in the report. That process will take a lot of time. Instead of firing your reports on data warehouse, what we need to do is take only HR related information into one small place that called as a universe. Instead of firing a query, for example, when you talk about data warehouse, if you have a 5 departmental data, there you can see crores of records. But fortunately or unfortunately, HR department have only 500 records. When you file a report to check HR records in 2 crores records, it will write a 2 crores matching conditions. It will take a lot of time to fetch that records. Searching will take a lot of time. Instead of searching such a small records in a big database, create one small database between your reporting and the data warehouse. Take only the HR related information into that database. Later create a reports on top of this small database. It will reduce your searching time. it will improve the performance of your reports. And one more use with the universe is, that means you are eliminating unwanted data. You are taking only meaningful data into the one place. Later you are redirecting reports to that meaningful database. So that time the searching will be reduced. If you reduce searching, automatically it will improve the, if you reduce searching, automatically it will improve the performance. That's why you need a universe. Universe is basically to improve the performance of reports. The definition of the universe says that an universe is a semantic layer or meaningful layer between your reporting and the data warehouse. Between reporting and the data warehouse. Between your reporting and the data warehouse. Why people called as meaningful, why people called as a meaningful, or why people called as a semantic layer, semantic layer means once you created your universe, all your meaningful data you took from data warehouse to the small database. That time the data warehouse contains only meaningful information what you required for the report. That's why it's a meaningful layer. If you want a common filter, for example, in all 10 reports you want to execute for previous month. For example, you are running report today, but report you want to run for previous day. That time what you need to do is, you need to add one filter in the universe, replicate for all the reports. So that means one filter you are defining one filter and reusing for all reports. That will also improve the performance. If you don't have universe, you need to create one by one filter for each report. That will take a lot of time. And if you want to apply drilling for all the reports, if you want to do drill down from country to state, state to city, city to branch, branch to customer, the drill down if you want to apply in the report level, instead of creating drills for each report, create one drill, one hierarchy in the universe and reuse for all the reports. Unfortunately, in my database, I have employee name as first name, last name, but my customer is asking to display that as full name. That time you need to write a formula. A full name equals to first name plus last name. You have a 10 reports. In 10 reports you need a full name. That time, instead of writing formula in first report is first name equals to full name equals to first name plus last name. Second report, full name equals to first name plus last name. Third also you need to write same formula. Instead of writing 10 formulas per 10 reports, write a one formula in universe, full name equals to first name plus last name, and reuse that full name formula in all reports. That's why it's a semantic. You are writing one formula and reusing for all reports. You are making one filter and reusing for all reports, and you are eliminating unwanted data. You are taking only required data into the universe. That time you are reducing the searching conditions, and you are defining one hierarchy, and you are reusing for all reports for drill. That's why it's a semantic meaningful layer. Now the definition of universe says that a universe is a semantic layer or meaningful layer or a microcube between reporting and the target database. Semantic means you can apply one formula and you can reuse for all. That means indirectly you are applying here, but it's replicating for all reports. Semantically you are controlling from your universe from all the reports, from universe to all the reports. That is your semantic layer. Microcube means data warehouse have all departmental data, but you took only HR data. It contains subset of your data warehouse. That is your microcube. That is your microcube, or somebody calls as a semi-cube. It contains subset of your data warehouse. That is your microcube. That is your universe. Then if they ask what is universe, you need to explain an universe is a semantic layer or meaningful layer between reporting and the target database. The next, they will ask why you need a universe. that I need to explain. Universe is to improve the performance of reports. It will improve the performance of reports. That is your universe. For creating an universe on any data source in BO, you have two tools. One is information designer. Second one is called as a universe designer. But in lower version, you have only one tool, that is a universe designer. When you create a universe with the universe designer, that time you can create universe only one data source, but not all data sources. When you create a universe with the information designer, you can create a universe on top of multiple data sources with the multiple connections. You have a different steps to create universe by using universe designer. We have a different steps to create universe with the information designer. We have a different steps. Now first we will see how to make an universe with the universe designer tool, that is there in R2 also. Same they have given in R4, R2, R3, R4. And the new tool anyway we'll talk tomorrow. First let me start with the universe designer tool, how to make an universe, and then later we'll see how to create a universe with the information designer. First let's start with the universe designer. Go to start programs, R4. There you have a client tools. A tool name called as a universe design tool. Yes, if you want to create an universe from your local system, the mandatory for you is you need a BO installation in the local system, as well as you need a username and password in the server. Then you can compatibly create a universe with your universe designer tool. Then later you can export that universe to the server, and then across the world the people can connect your universe with their rich client or Crystal and Excelsius to create multiple number of reports on top of your universe. It's a mandatory for you is you need a BO client tool installation in the local system, as well as you need a login credentials in the BO server. That is mandatory. Now assume I have a client installation in my local system and I just started my universe designer tool. There it is asking me to enter the server name. I entered my dev server name as Ravan. Ravan is my dev server name, and I am entering my username password. Now I am connecting with the administrator, but in real time you need to connect with your username. Every developer have a separate username password. For example, Radhika is creating a universe. Radhika need to enter her login credentials here and click on OK. Once you click on OK, from your universe designer you connected with the dev server. Then it will give a steps to create a universe. I'll explain you the few steps how to create an universe. Let me open my PowerPoint presentation. Yes, before creating universe, if you want to create an universe, the mandatory is you need to know your report requirement. For example, why you are creating universe? To improve performance of your reports. But our ultimate goal is first you need to get a requirement what they want in the report. Once you are good with the requirement, later, for example, today you have a requirement to create 10 reports. In each report you have 10 columns. That means total you need 100 columns from data warehouse. Our ultimate goal is these 10 reports need to take data from data warehouse. Yes, if you want to take 10 columns from the data warehouse. But I know the requirement, but I don't know what tables is there in the backend. In the data warehouse. Who created the data warehouse? There's a team called as a ETL team. ETL team is created the data warehouse. How come You compare. How can you compare your report requirement with the database tables there in the data warehouse? That time, once you join in the project, the ETL team will give a KT, and as well as they will give a ETL architecture diagram. There you can see the number of tables and the columns there in the tables, as well as they will explain about each column there in the table. And now you have your report requirement. Take a column 1 in the report 1 and see where it is there. Take column 2 in the report 2. Check where, in which table that column is there. Otherwise ask a ETL team. ETL team will give the table names where your columns are presented. That is the way you need to map 100 columns with the tables where it is presented. For example, your 100 columns there in 15 tables. That 15 tables you need to import into the universe. That is your mandatory. If you have 1,000 tables in the data warehouse, but as per our requirement we need only 15 tables, eliminate 85 tables, only import 15 tables. That time you are reducing number of tables. If you are reducing number of tables means you are reducing number of giants. If you are reducing number of giants means you are reducing number of matching conditions. If you reduce number of matching conditions, it will improve the performance. That is what you need to do. The mandatory for creating an universe is you need a BO client installation in the local, as well as you need a username password in the desired BO dev server, and as well as you need to know the requirement what you are going to create on universe. You need to know the report requirement. If customer is requested to create 10 reports, please ask the customer to send a requirement, clear requirement. Yes, once they send a requirement, if 10 reports have 100 columns, check where the 100 columns is there. How you can check? Take the help of ETL team, take a KT from ETL team, and compare your report columns with the database table columns. If all are matching, then decide what tables you require. That tables you need to import. This is mandatory in the real time. Before starting your universe, you need to map your report column with the table names and note down the required tables in the paper. Later create a universe, import the tables into universe. That is mandatory. That is mandatory. Okay, now well and good. Yes, you decided what tables you required. Now I will take a very small, very simple examples and how to create an universe. That I will explain. This is all I explained. We'll see the steps for creating universe. The steps for creating universe is you need to follow, define the parameters. Then define the parameter means nothing is there. You are going to create an universe. You need to give the universe name, as well as you need to define a connection between your universe and the target data warehouse, target database called as a data warehouse. You just need to give the name of the universe, as well as you need to define a connection between universe and the target database is called as a data warehouse. And very next step, you need to import the required tables based on your BO requirement, based on your report requirement. You decided you need a 15 tables to satisfy 10 reports there. 10 reports, that 15 tables you need to import. That means you need to insert a tables. Second one is make the joins. You just need to define a joins between the tables whatever you imported. I hope you know in the database, if you are taking data from 2 or more tables, that time the mandatory is you need to define a joins between the tables. Yes, you define the tables. Sometimes fortunate or unfortunate, if you are trying to satisfy multiple requirements, you will create a multiple joins between the tables. That time it will form a continuous path. You need to resolve that loop. That continuous path you call as a loop. as per the reference cell integrity in database. If you want to write any query on the database, you need to follow 3 reference cell integrity conditions. Condition number 1, if you are taking data from 2 or more tables, you need to make a joins. If you want to make a join between 2 tables, the mandatory is you need to identify common columns between 2 tables. Yes, you have identified the common column between 2 tables. Step 1 done. Step 2, that common column must be a primary key in one table, foreign key in other table. Yes, second rule you satisfied. Third rule is, if you have a 3 tables, you are taking 3 tables, the joins must be less than 3. If you create more than 3 or equal to 3, it will form a continuous path between the tables that we call as a loop. For example, I have a 2 tables. Let me take a 2 tables. This is my table 1 and this is my table 2. You created one join between this, it won't form any continuous path. If you create one more join between these 2 tables, it will form a continuous path, is called as a loop. Continuous path is called as a loop. If you take 3 tables, table 2 and as well as table 3, if you make join 1 between table 1 and table 2, join 2 between table 2 and table 3, it won't form any continuous path. Now we have 3 tables and 2 joins, that is less than number of joins is less than number of tables, it won't form any continuous path. When you create one more join between table 1 and table 3, it will form a continuous path, is called as a loop. As per the reference cell integrity, it is not allowed. You need to resolve this loop. That is what our 5th step. You need to check once you created the joins. If there is a more number of joins between tables, you need to resolve that loops. Yes, once you resolve the loops. But fortunate or unfortunate, in my report, my customer is asking to show employee name as a full name, but in my tables the data is presented first name and last name. Data is presented like first name and last name, but report they are asking me to present as full name. That time we need to write a formula, full name equals to first name plus last name. But fortunate or unfortunate, you cannot rename the column there in the table. The reason is the table is created in the data warehouse. You just imported to reuse. They don't allow us to modify the column name in the table. That time what you need to do is convert the table as a class, that column as an object. Later you can rename that object. Anyway, that object will map with the column. For example, let me show you why you need a classes and objects. There's a universe. I'm just trying to create a new universe. Anyway, I'll explain this later. And I want to make any one connection. I'm just taking a connection to connect with some database. If you want to import a tables, you just need to import a tables. Article lookup. Have a soft fact. I'm just trying to create a join between these 2 tables. You can create a join between these 2 tables. Okay. Now there is a problem with my relative path of the table. Let me rename this triplet. There is a problem with my table. I'll tell you later how to resolve this. There's an installation problem for me. This is my table. I just renamed. Still when I click detect, it is throwing an error. Let me change these tables also. Anyway, when you click on, I created the join between these two tables with some name. Okay, it created the join. But here I have a article label, but my customer is asking to display as a model name. Article label as model name. That is the case. What you need to do is you need to rename that article label as a model name. If you want to rename that article label as a model name, it's my customer requirement. My customer want to see this column name as a model name in the report. That time what you need to do is you need to rename that column name as a object name. How you rename this? You cannot rename in the table. If you want to rename, you just need to drag and drop the table into left side. That time it will create here the table name is article underscore lookup. It will convert that as a article space lookup. And when you see here, you have a lot of columns. You have article underscore ID, article underscore label, category. Same way, it will create an object. Here in the left side, you call as object. This is article ID. Here you have article underscore ID. This article ID is mapped with the article lookup dot article ID. Article lookup dot article ID. This is mapped with the article lookup dot article ID. And this article label is joined. When you see article label is joined, article underscore lookup dot article underscore label. If you want to rename this object, comfortably you can rename that as model name. But still the model name is mapping with what? Article lookup dot article label. That means the end user in the report can see that object name as model name, but still the model name object is taking data from article lookup dot article underscore label column. That is a way you can rename. You cannot rename in the table. You cannot rename the column name in the table. The reason is this table is created in the backend. Just you import it. They don't give a chance for us to rename. That's why what you are doing is you are just creating a replica of the table called as a class. Replica of the column is called as the object. That object you are renaming. In the programming languages, you will write a variables. If you have a if you want to show that as a C, then the time what you do, you define a variable called as a C, then you will assign C equals to A. But customer will see that as a C, but still the data is coming from A. Same way here also, my customer want to see this as a model name. I created the object name as model name, that I am mapping with the article lookup dot article label. When user clicks on model name, it will take data from article label. It's very simple. That is we call as a classes and objects. You need to define the classes and object to follow the naming conventions. This is basically to follow the naming conventions. And the next, setup hierarchies. There's the next option is called as setup hierarchies. The hierarchies is basically to apply drills in the report. What do you mean by drill? Already I explained you. There is a ad hoc report concept in Vivo, whereby ad hoc report means if you are creating a reports for high level management, don't present very detailed data. You just need to present very summarized data first time, then later let them navigate, let them to click on high level data and convert report into low level. For example, you created report with the country wise sales. When you enable a drill, user clicks on country India, then report converts to states there in India, AP, Karnataka, Maharashtra. If user clicks on AP, then report converts to cities there in AP. Again, if the user selected Hyderabad, then it will display the branches there in Hyderabad. Branches there in Hyderabad. There is a way the user can drill down in the report level. If they want to drill down in universe level, they need an hierarchies. They need a hierarchies. Based on the report drilling requirement, we need to make an hierarchies in the BO. That is what you need to define here. Set of hierarchies. Set of hierarchies. You know, now you are very clear. To create an universe, first you need to give the name of the universe, and you need to make a connection between universe and the data warehouse. That is a part of your define the parameters. Very next step, once you define the connection between universe and the data warehouse, comfortably you can talk from universe to the data warehouse. Once you connected with the data warehouse, you can see the tables there in the data warehouse. Then insert tables. Then select the required tables and insert into the data warehouse, universe. That is your insert tables. Third step is make the joins. Once you imported the tables, if the report is taking data from 2 or more tables, you just need to make the joins. Once you created the joins between tables, sometimes it will form a continuous path. You just need to resolve that loop. That is what resolve loops. That we'll discuss in the resolve the loops. And fifth step is, if you want to rename a column name according to the end user requirement, you cannot rename in the table. You just need to convert the table as a class and column as object. There you can rename according to the end user requirement. That is what create classes and objects. And if the customer wanted drills in the report, you need to make an hierarchies in the universe. That hierarchies you need to define in the set of hierarchy step. Once you have done all this, you need to distribute your universe for the customer to create a reports. Before distributing your universe, what you need to do is, you need to test, you need to apply proper testing. You need to test the universe, whether you imported the tables with the correct syntax, whether you created the joins with the correct syntax, whether you resolve the loops or not. If you have, you need to check your formulas, what you created in objects and classes. I need to check what kind of hierarchies you created, whether it's following the BO syntax or not. That all you need to test in the testing part. And very next step, seventh step is testing. And eighth step is distribution. Distribution means later you need to export your universe to server, BO server. Then people can access your universe from server and they can create a report. Now the steps for creating an universe is define the parameters, insert tables, make the joins, resolve the loops, create classes and objects, set up hierarchies, and seventh step is testing, eighth step is distribution. These 8 steps you need to follow for creating an universe in the BO. That's good. You know how to create a universe. You have a universe designer tool and you know steps for creating universe. But now you need to know the requirement why you are creating universe. I know why I am creating universe. The requirement is to improve performance of my reports. First you need to know, yes, which report performance you are importing and what columns you required in the report. Now I am explaining you. The details you will get from the client. Now treat me, I am a client, I am explaining you my requirement. We are going to create a universe to satisfy one small report requirement. My requirement is, let me explain. Treat me, I am a client, I am giving the requirement. Based on that requirement you need to build a universe. My requirement is, I want a report like model name, and year, and amount sold, quantity sold. This is my report. You are going to create a report for Apple iPhone 4 2011, amount sold, around 15 million dollars, quantity sold around 1500k mobiles, iPhone 4 2010, around $10 million revenue they got. They sold around 1000k mobiles. This is a way you need to create a report. This is my requirement. I'm asking you to create this kind of report. With these 4 columns. You need to satisfy these 4 columns. You need to create a report with these 4 columns for iPhone, Apple owner, to check their status, to see their revenue every day, how much they are getting across the world for all the models in year wise. That is their requirement. For creating this report, first you need to check where the model name is there, where the year column is there, where the amount sold column is there, where the quantity sold column is there. How you can check that? These columns will be there in the data warehouse. If you want to check these columns, you need to take a KT from the data warehouse team. The reason is that the data warehouse is created by some other team. The team you call as the ETL team. The ETL team knows what tables there in the data warehouse and what columns there in the data warehouse. They will give a KT in the real time, knowledge transfer. KT stands for knowledge transfer. They'll give a KT. With the help of KT, and anyway I gave a requirement, my report requirement. With the help of KT and your report requirement, you need to compare these columns with the tables there in the backend and decide what tables you require. Now treat me, I gave a requirement, now treat me, I am a ETL guy. I am explaining you about my tables. In my database, I have a table called as the article lookup table, and the second table called as the calendar year lookup table. Third one is called as soft fact table. I have these 3 tables, and article lookup have a columns like article label, article ID, and calendar year lookup table contains year, quarter, month, week, day objects, and soft fact contains quantity sold, amount sold objects, quantity sold, amount sold, and margin price columns. But as per our requirement, we need model name, year, amount sold, quantity sold. But customer naming convention, it's a model name, but in the table they place that name as a article label. So you need to map your model name with the article label there in the article lookup. Model name you need to map with the article label column there in the article lookup table. Yes, you need to decide, oh, for my first column I need article lookup table. Second, year column is there in the calendar year lookup table. Oh, you need to decide, yes, for satisfying my requirement I need a calendar year lookup. Then amount sold Amount sold and quantity sold will be there in the soft fact table. I'm a ETL guy, I give a KT. I explained about my tables. You are a report developer or universe developer. Already you have a requirement what you want in the report, and with the help of your requirement and with the help of my KT, you can decide what tables you required for creating your report. There's a way you can decide your tables. Now let's go to the mandatory for creating an universe is you need a universe designer tool in the local system, as well as you need a username password. And very next step, third step is you need to know the requirement. Yes, you know the requirement what you are going to create now. You know the requirement, you need to create a one report called as the Apple sales report. In the Apple sales report you need a 4 columns: model name, year, quantity sold, amount sold. Yes, you know the requirement. Very next step, you need to map your report columns with the columns there in the backend. For mapping your report columns with the columns there in the backend, you need to take a KT from ETL team. ETL team will explain about each table and the columns there in each table. With the help of that KT, you can decide what tables you require for satisfying your report. Yes, I decided I needed 3 tables for satisfying my requirement. And the very next step is you need to create a connection. If you want to create a connection between your universe and the data warehouse, you need a data warehouse name and username password for creating that connection. That is mandatory. That is mandatory. That also you need to get from ETL team. Yes, I'm an ETL guy. I gave my data warehouse name is eFashion data warehouse. There you have these 3 tables, and username and password for connecting with my data warehouse is administrator, and password is bo@123. That means from universe designer you need to connect the universe is with the administrator bo@123 password. And as well as you need to know the drivers. If the data warehouse is running on Oracle, you need to use Oracle drivers. If the data warehouse is running on SAP, you need to use SAP drivers to create a connection. If it is a Sybase, you need to use a Sybase drivers along with this username password. Yes, that also I am explaining you. My data warehouse is there in Access database. That's why you need to use a ODBC drivers. Now for creating a connection between universe and the data warehouse is I am giving a details. With the help of the details you can create a connection. My data warehouse name is eFashion and username password for connecting data warehouse is administrator and bo@123, and drivers for connecting eFashion data warehouse is ODBC, Open Database Connectivity, to connect with the Access data warehouse. The data warehouse is executing an Access. So you have all these details, then comfortably you can create your universe. Now let's start to create a universe. If you want to create an universe, first step is you need to go to Start, Programs, SAP Business Objects BI Platform 4.0, SAP BI Platform Client Tools. There you have a tool called as the Universe Designer. Click on Universe Designer from your local system. Once you clicked on Universe Designer in the local system, it will ask you to enter the login credentials. Enter the server name, your dev server name here, and your username password here, and your username. Then here you need to enter your password. Once you enter your login credentials, click on OK. Now indirectly you are connecting dev server from your local designer tool. Once you connected, cancel this, go to File, New. You have connected the designer to create an universe. Give the name of the universe. In the define parameters you need to give the name of the universe. My universe name is, I am creating iPhone sales universe, iPhone sales universe. That's why I gave the name as iPhone sales. Then you need to define a connection between this universe and the target database called as the data warehouse. I told you this iPhone details will be there in eFashion data warehouse. That means from this iPhone sales universe and between this iPhone sales universe and the eFashion data warehouse, you need to define a connection. If you want to define a connection, you need to click on new here. Then it will ask you to give the name of the connection. I'm just giving a connection name called as iPhone sales. I'm creating this universe on dev data warehouse, so that's why I need to give dev. I give the dev, then click on next. You need to click on next. When you click on next, it will ask you to select the database drivers. I'm selecting database drivers as in the generic. I'm selecting our drivers is, otherwise it's an access database. You need to check where the Microsoft drivers is there. I have a Microsoft. My database is executing on Microsoft MS Access 2003. Then select that as a driver, and then it will ask you to select your data warehouse name. Here I am selecting my data warehouse name. I told you my data warehouse name is eFashion. Just select eFashion, and I know username password to connect with the data warehouse. This details anyway I got from my ETL team. Yes, once you enter your username password and once you selected your data source, click on test connection. If the server is responding, that means you entered right username password to connect with the eFashion data warehouse. Then click on next, click on next, click on finish, and click on OK. Now you defined your connection as well as you gave the name of the universe. You have done defining parameters. Very next step is insert tables. I hope you know what tables you require. I told you in the requirement itself you decided you need a article lookup, calendar year lookup, sub fact. If you want to import the tables, once you define the parameters, once you click on OK, you will be on this home page. This page have two windows. The right side big pane is called as a structure pane. Left side very small pane is called as a classes and objects pane. If you want to import the tables, you need to follow few steps. If you want to import the tables, you just need to right click in the structure pane. This window you call as a structure window. You need to right click in the structure window and click on tables. Once you click on tables, it will display your data source names. Ours is eFashion. You just need to click on eFashion. Here you have a eFashion. Then our tables you required is article lookup. Select article lookup. Why? The reason is I need an article label column. Article label column is there in article lookup. Select article lookup. Click on insert. And you required as per the requirement calendar year lookup. Click on insert. And you decided to get quantity sold, amount sold from soft fact. Please select the soft fact and click on insert. Now then close your table browser. Now you imported all your three tables as per the requirement. You imported all three tables as per the requirement. That is your insert tables. This is your insert tables. This is a way you can define parameters and you can insert tables. I'm going to close the class today, and tomorrow we'll see how to make a joins between tables. Let me recap what we discussed today. Today we discussed about universe, I told you in BO for creating WebAI report, the mandatory is you need an universe between your WebAI report and the data warehouse. The WebAI report can talk only with the universe. If you want to create an universe, you need a universe designer tool in the local, as well as you need a login credentials in the server, as well as you need to know the report requirement, what columns you want in the report that you need to take from the customer. Once customer give their report requirement, you need to map that columns whatever there in the report to data warehouse. If you want to map the report columns in the data warehouse, you need to make a KT from ETL team. With the help of KT and the requirement, you can comfortably decide what tables you require for your report requirement. Yes, once you know both, you need to take a username, password and drivers for data warehouse to create connection between your universe and the data warehouse. That all is mandatory. Mandatory is you need a universe designer tool in the local. Next, you need a username, password in the server. And third step is you need to know the requirement. And fourth step is you need to take a KT from ETL team and compare your report requirement with the tables there in the ETL and decide what tables you require. And very next step is you need to take a username, password and drivers for the data warehouse. If you have all these points, then you can comfortably create an universe. For creating universe now is, once you know this all, then the steps for creating universe is define the parameters. In the define the parameters, you need to give the name of the universe and connection. Insert tables means you need to import whatever the required tables you need from the data warehouse to the structure pane of the universe. Once you imported the tables, if the report is taking data more than two tables, that time more than one table, that time you need to create a joins between the tables. That is, you will make the joins. Sometimes for satisfying the requirement, people will create multiple joins between the tables. That time it will form a continuous path. As per the referential integrity, you need to resolve that loop. And very next step is you need to make classes and objects. You know why you need to make classes and objects? The making classes and objects is basically, the table have a different naming conventions. They will follow employee number as E_NO, but in the report they will ask us to display as employee number. That means you need to rename that column. You cannot rename the column in the table. That time what you need to do is simply convert table as a class, column as object. There you can rename. That is, you are creating classes and objects. Set up hierarchies. Reports, customer will ask us to apply a drilling in the report. If you want to apply a drilling in the report, you need to set up an hierarchies in BO. That is your setup hierarchies. Once you set up your hierarchies, you need to test it. Once you test all these are working, then export universe to the server that you call as a distribution. Seventh step is testing and eighth step is distribution. That 8 steps you need to follow to define, to create an universe. Now, if you want to, all this, you need to go to designer, start programs, business objects, designer. There you need to enter your username, password and the server name. Once you click on OK, you will be on the home page of universe designer. Then you need to go to file, new, give the name of the universe and click on new connection and give the name of the connection and select the drivers. If your data warehouse is executing an SAP, please select SAP drivers. If it is an Access, you need to select ODBC or Access 2000 or 2007 drivers. My eFashion is executing on Access 2007. That's why I selected the executing on 2003. That's why I selected Access 2003 drivers to communicate from universe to the data warehouse. Then you need to click on next, enter, then select the data source name in the drop down. That means your data warehouse name called as eFashion and enter username, password, click on OK. That time you will be on this window. structure pane and classes and objects pane. In the structure pane, you need to right click and see what are the tables there in the data warehouse. Select the required tables, click on insert. That is what we discussed today. Any doubts? In BI, we have two kind of tools.
Unmuted.
BI, we have two kind of tools. The tool number 1 is called as a ETL tools, and tool number 2 is called as a reporting tools. But BI always they call as a EAM tools, not business intelligence tools. I told you SAP have a 4 kind of tools: GRC, EPM, EAM, then BI. That BODI comes in EAM, not in business intelligence. In business intelligence, you have WebI, Crystal, Excelsius are reporting tools. Your BODI and BODS comes in EIM, Enterprise Information Management, that we call as the ETL tools. Agree? Viswa, answered your question? Hello?
Hello?
Viswa, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
BODS comes in EIM. When you see your help.sap.com, I'll show you. In help.sap.com, when you click on SAP Business Objects, we have a 4 kind of tools. Analytic application, enterprise performance management, business intelligence, enterprise information management. In enterprise information management, you can see your BODI, BODS.
Okay.
In BI, you can see your Crystal, Excelsius, and all.
So, what is BO11?
Sorry?
BO11 comes under business intelligence.
Exactly.
Okay. So, it is mainly for reporting tools.
Exactly. See, here you have a data services, right?
Yes.
Yes. Mainly the reporting tools comes under BI. Okay?
Okay. And what about
answered your question, right?
Yeah. What about EPM, sir?
BODS, Enterprise Management, your BPC, Business Planning and Consolidation Applications.
Okay.
Business Objects Planning and Consolidation Application. Your finance applications. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Answered your question.